You mocked me. You clowned me. You compared the very idea of getting an excessively frugal new Smash Bros. Game to the Axis powers winning World War II. Actually, and it wasn't just one of you. Clearly, I have no choice but to go for it. You guys want to see my take on a post-Ultimate Smash roster refresh without the severe constraints? Fine. You're gonna get it. Dare you to like it. Bet you won't. Heh, heh, heh. Before I start listing characters, I must, as always, explain this roster's concept and guidelines which I have set for myself. 1. Fundamentally, I'm imagining this game would be more akin to a refurbishing than a reboot. 2. This roster will total 89 characters before DLC, the same number as Ultimate. Do I believe this is a realistic outcome for the next Smash? Not really. But I know there are folks out there who do. And besides, I'm making this video to counterbalance my frugal roster take, so I figure, hey, why not indulge to the farthest extent Smash itself has ever indulged to this point? It leaves me room to both exfoliate long-standing series, while also touching on a couple of my personal desires on the front of inducting new series to Smash's playable ranks. 3. Some veterans will be altered to the point they hardly play the way they have in the past, some will be cut in recognition of their ancillarity, and the remaining veterans will be largely the same with some tweaks here and there to improve their characterization. If it's worth noting, I'll note it. 4. There will be lots of newcomers here. Way more than Nintendo will probably end up putting in their next Smash Bros. Game. But you know, I had to fill up 89 slots before DLC, and while I don't think I cut too many veterans, I cut enough to the point I had plenty of room to add fighters to the extent that almost every previously represented Nintendo series got at least one newcomer. Hallelujah! 5, and I can't stress this enough, I am not making excruciatingly realistic predictions. That way, all the odds and ends as related to dev time, technical feasibility, or perceived business sense. I'm taking these things into account loosely. In short, I'm a guy making innocent entertainment on YouTube under the guise of a sock puppet. Are the opinions I express on these matters really worthy of perpetuated scorn? But now the time for preamble is over. The time now has come to reveal the characters I chose for this roster. We'll go series by series at first for first-party characters, then talk about third parties, then finish off with a DLC roadmap. Whew. Here we go. The Mario series will consist of 5 characters, 3 revamped veterans, 2 Echo Fighters. Mario will remain basic in playstyle so as to be a good point of reference for new players, but his animations, attitude, and a good handful of his attacks will reflect a more peppy, poster boyish Mario, rather than the brooding, no funny business, this is a fighting game, dagnabbit Mario we've gotten from the time of Brawl and onwards. Dr. Mario will continue the tradition of being a slower and more heavy-hitting variant of his dungaree-clad counterpart. It might even be a cute homage to have his voice lines remain Charles Martinet's, while standard Mario gets Kevin Afghani. Princess Peach's moveset will veer closer to her appearances in Super Princess Peach and Princess Peach Showtime, where they can. The hover from Super Mario Bros. 2 is goated and should stay, but moves like summoning a toad as a counter must have better alternatives, right? Daisy will return as an echo of Peach in much the same way she did in Ultimate. Sorry I can't be bothered to say much on the particulars of her differentiation, but it's better than leaving her out altogether, don't you think, Daisy fans? Bowser, like Mario, will finally quit the too serious shtick he's been stuck with and instead move, sound, and behave as he's been doing in the Mario series pretty much since Sunshine. There are a lot of cuts from Mario, and you're probably thinking to yourself right now, okay, some of these I get, but how could you cut Luigi? Good news, I didn't. The Luigi's Mansion series will have 2 fighters, 1 revamped veteran, 1 Echo. Luigi will have been changed up drastically from his past appearances, leaning entirely into his Luigi's Mansion getup to the point his poltergust is on his person at all times. The LM franchise is one of Nintendo's best-selling IPs with just 3 games and 2 ports to its name, so this shakeup is well precedented by my estimation. Gooigi will be an echo of Luigi. He'll move faster and slipperier, take damage easier, and his model will be subtly jigglier. The Yoshi series will consist of 2 fighters, 1 revamped veteran, 1 newcomer. Yoshi will of course be the revamped veteran in question. Make swallowing the side special, make egg throwing with a reticle a la Yoshi's Island the neutral special, make a flutter jump with wings a la Super Mario World the recovery, and just generally let this dino soar with this revamp. Get it? Now for the newcomer, a villain to join the fold. A trend with this roster regarding Smash's original 8 franchises. It's Kamek. He'll use his magic spells to turn projectiles thrown his way into random items or just make them disappear. He'll fly about on his broomstick, he'll teleport, he'll conjure up baddies like Shy Guys, Toadies, and Chain Chomps to do his bidding. He'll be a huge boon to both the Yoshi series representation and the Mario series for that matter, in much the same way his shell-saddled shoe-wearing rival is. The Wario series will consist of 2 fighters, 1 revamped veteran, 1 newcomer. Wario will bring the pizzazz he does in Where World and Land, now with 99% less farting. Rather than a big bite, his neutral special will be his ever-iconic shoulder bash dash from Wario Land 4. His down B will involve him grabbing items or opponents with 1 arm over his head, as he also does in Wario Land 4. Pressing B again while holding something in this state will see him launch whatever's in his grasp, turning it or them into a dangerous projectile. Keep the bike for a side special, maybe change his recovery. As it is, it's a little generic, but it's functional, I don't know. In general, I think Wario stands to benefit the most from getting a loving revamp, because Smash has only done him dirtier and dirtier as he's continued to appear, and it's a complete mystery as to why. Now, the Wario franchise has no shortage of amazing characters who could join the Smash Bros. Fray, but I think the most thematically fitting candidate is 9volt. His company oeuvre is microgames based on Nintendo history. Smash is about Nintendo's history. It's just too perfect, especially on the fronts of toys and games that don't neatly track onto assist trophies or items. The Donkey Kong series will have 4 playable characters, 1 revamped veteran, 2 standard veterans, and 1 newcomer. DK, like Bowser, will be de-beastified and made to look, sound, and behave as he does in his home series. Much homage will be paid to DK Bonanza on this front, but there's still room for even more broad reference, like having his falling animation reflect the arcade game, or have him chucking a barrel for his side special. Lots of potential in a DK revamp. Diddy Kong is a no-brainer to return. He's the unquestionable number 2 for the whole shebang, and I don't think we need to revamp him all that much. King K. Rool, even after over a decade of dormancy, is the undisputed big baddie of the DK series, and getting him in Ultimate was a major win that we would be remiss to abandon. And finally, the newcomer. And I know you all don't want to hear it, but I would frankly be shocked if this doesn't actually happen come the next Smash game. Pauline. Whether or not she'll be young Pauline or grown Pauline is up in the air. I think young Pauline is a happier prospect, but only on the grounds she continues to be a partner in the newly minted 3D DK series. If she's a one-time companion in the vein of Cappy or the King of Red Lions, maybe it'd be best to stick with her adult variant. Either way, she is Nintendo's OG ingenue, and they've made a concerted effort to keep her in contemporary titles going on a decade strong since Mario Odyssey. And even with that aside, she's had a comfortable spot in the frequently iterated upon Mario vs. DK series prior. There is plenty to pull from for her moveset-wise. It would be really cute if she were young Pauline and her special moves revolved around animal buddies who pull off some moves DK could do in his Bonanza forms. But there's also plenty of wildly different moveset potential in an adult Pauline. Either way, Pauline just seems like a very natural fit to join the ranks of Smash Brothers. Before we move on from Donkey Kong, I want to offer my condolences to the Cranky, Dixie, and Funky fans. I would love to see any or even all of these characters in a Smash game, but we've got to draw our line somewhere when roster building. And I think the DK series getting its all-encompassing mascot, a face for the country series, a main villain, and a face who simultaneously harkens to the classic arcade and modern 3D series, and even Mario vs. DK series, covers plenty of ground in terms of legacy representation. The Legend of Zelda series will have 5 characters, 2 revamped veterans, 1 standard veteran, and 2 newcomers. That's right, no echoes. We're solo linking for the first time since 64, baby. Speaking of, Link will get a green tunic look inspired by his many appearances over the years, but not directly any one of them, save for maybe some alternate costumes. This iteration of Link will be Smash Bros. Specific. Similar to how Hyrule Warriors had a unique take on the Triforce Trio, this Smash game will also provide new takes on the Triforce Trio. And as such, Link's moveset will now broaden out a bit to pay homage to the many moves and items he's used across his nearly 40-year history. Zelda will play very similarly to how she has before, but with some tweaks here and there. Enough to feel distinct from past portrayals, but not enough to feel like a total revamp. Ganondorf will get possibly the most daring revamp of all the veterans on this roster. I'm using his look from Echoes of Wisdom for the B-roll, but I imagine his look for this game would be a hybrid of his pigliness and his manliness. Kinda like the Beast from Disney's Beauty and the Beast, he'll ride the line perfectly between anthropomorphic and feral. This way, he can make use of moves from across Zelda history and across his many disparately different reinterpretations. There would not be a single trace of Captain Falcon DNA in this canon. Now, when it came to choosing newcomers for the Zelda series, I went back and forth on what philosophy to which I should adhere, but ultimately, my heart knew that while the likes of Tingle and Impa are fine and all, what the Zelda series really needs from new Smash Fighters are representatives of the iconic recurring fantasy races. So I've chosen Darunia and Ruto. Are there arguably better Gorons and Zoras I could have gone with? I suppose. But these two stand out in my mind as being the gold standard for how their respective races should look. I know Sidon has his fans, but Ruto's look is much more quintessentially Zora to me, and that's what I value. And in terms of movesets, there's no shortage of moves that could be pilfered from their Hyrule Warriors appearances alone, let alone just paying mind to their physicalities and the abilities of other members of their races. The Metroid series will have 4 fighters. 1 revamped veteran, 1 standard veteran, 1 newcomer, and 1 Echo. Samus would be more agile and powered up, taking cues from her depictions in the Mercury Steam titles. Dark Samus would return as an Echo and fitting Metroid Prime ambassador. Ridley would return as a villainous rival and most popular/feasible of the Metroid series' many monstrous bosses to be a playable character. And finally, newcomer Sylux would round off the last corner for this series as an ambassador not just for Metroid Prime, but its spin-off ventures like Hunters and Federation Force. The F-Zero series will have 2 fighters, 1 standard veteran and 1 Echo. Captain Falcon must never be absent from a Smash Bros. Foray, and for the most part, we want him to show us largely the same moves. Now friends, I am a huge F-Zero fan. This series has so many worthy candidates and all of them hold limitless potential due to the fact that, while we rarely get to see them in action, they all have designs with straight-up fighting game character principles. Despite this fact, I've opted to saddle Falcon with an Echo as his first fellow F-Zero fighter. An Echo more like Wolf to Fox than Dark Pit to Pit, mind you, but an Echo nonetheless. Because even with so many roster spots to fill for this exercise, I still think F-Zero on the whole is well represented by good old Douglas J, and if anything, all we need from another F-Zero character is a warm body to show normies, hey, there are a lot of alien freaks in this franchise. So I've chosen Pico, the F-Zero series' longest recurring alien rival. I know Black Shadow has his fans, but I also know most people only latch onto him because he looks like Falcon, has a cape, and is a bad guy. So for years people have been saying, hey, make Ganondorf his own character and transpose his clone moves to this guy. But if anything, that's just dismissing the idea that Black Shadow could have his own interesting moveset. You know he only looks like Falcon in GX because Sega were frugal with the 3D models and most of the characters who wear a black visor look like him, right? Look at his X artwork. Dude's the freaking juggernaut. I guess what I'm getting at with giving Pico the spot over Shadow is just to say, maybe we should consider F-Zero's cast by their importance to it, rather than popular takes born from largely detached Smash-specific speculation. Oh, and just because Pico is an Echo doesn't mean he can't have some special moves of his own. You can pull from source material or even just make stuff up. Yeah, we know he's good with guns and has a sniper rifle, But who knows? Maybe he has dragon wings or Doc Ock tentacles under his shell, who's to say? The Starfox series will have 3 fighters, a standard veteran, and 2 returning echoes. Yes, Fox, Falco, and Wolf are all returning and remaining the Star Fox series' sole representatives. Oh, and yes, I know Sakurai doesn't consider Falco and Wolf to be Echoes in Ultimate, but come on. We know they're largely built off the bones of Fox. Sakurai said as much when people asked him why Wolf got into Brawl but not Crystal. Oh, and yeah, sorry Crystal fans. I know there's an argument to be made she would flesh out SF's representation, but despite her continued appearances past Star Fox Adventures, well, until Zero and Starlink anyway, Star Fox is plenty well-rounded in terms of roster presence as it is, and she doesn't justify the inclusion over other characters in my opinion. Again, my opinion. If you disagree, I commend you for it. I'd personally just rather have more yet-to-be represented series on the roster over more Star Fox characters. The Kirby series will have 4 fighters, 3 standard veterans, and 1 newcomer. Kirby, King Dedede, and Meta Knight are perfectly prime as are in my book, but man oh man, has their trio been lonely for the one who'd make them a quartet. So yes, Waddle Dee will finally join the roster here. What more is there to say? Ever since his playable debut in Return to Dreamland, he's been a central Kirby castmate and a Ridley-esque K-Roolian request from the Smash faithful. We know now Sakurai is well aware this guy is the 4th Beetle. So, let's come together, right now, over me. The Mother series will have 3 fighters, 1 standard veteran, 1 echo, and 1 newcomer. Ness is returning, whoop-de-doo. Lucas is returning, whip-de-dee. And Porky is making his debut in a creepy little spider leg mech, hoodly-oo. The Pokemon series will have 6 fighters. 3 standard veterans, 1 revamped veteran, and 2 newcomers. Now, before I name names, I would like to draw your attention to the method by which I arrived at the characters chosen here. Aside from Pikachu, who, oh, well, okay, surprise, surprise, Pikachu is back. But aside from him, each Pokemon character on this roster spiritually represents each era of the mainline Pokemon franchise. 1 for the Game Boy family, 1 for the Game Boy Advance family, 1 for the DS family, 1 for the 3DS family, and 1 for the Switch or home console family. And not just in the sense they came from a game from those particular eras, but because most everything about them exudes or exemplifies the unique ephemera of said eras. For the Game Boy family, Mewtwo strikes back. Lol. I don't know if he's considered legendary by Pokemon jargon, but his status is legendary in the series' history. Plus, he's kinda like an antagonist for this original 8 series, so that's nice. For the GBA family, Pokemon Trainer, whose default look is based on Fire Red and Leaf Green mind you, will be revamped to actually fight on the stage himself, summoning a wide range of Pokemon from across the generations to execute his attacks. Or, alternatively, he could perhaps be sort of like Misongo from ARMS, whereby his moves will have different properties depending on what Pokemon he has summoned at a time. Either or would be cool, don't you think? For the DS family, Lucario returns, and by the way, both he and Mewtwo also Mega Evolve, so it's not like their appearances are strictly based around these areas for which I'm positioning them as ambassadors. That said, I didn't want to bring Greninja back as our 3DS representative, because when I think of the 3DS era of Pokemon, I think of how it not only brought 3D models to the main series, but how it introduced the idea of new forms for previously known Pokemon. Megas were exciting to begin with, but regional variants have really taken the cake, and continued to be utilized beyond the gen it was introduced. So, rather than Greninja, the Pokemon that will represent the 3DS era's propensity for new forms is not Mega Gengar. I came close, but ultimately decided a regional form would be more apropos considering Mewtwo and Lucario Mega Evolve. It will not be someone cool like Alolan Marowak or Sandslash. It will not be someone cute like Alolan Meowth or Raichu. No. The Smash roster has plenty of cute Pokemon and cool Pokemon, but where are our derpy, goofy, kinda ugly, silly guys at? The 3DS era of Pokemon's rep will be Alolan Grimer. No, really, think about it. We've never had a Smash fighter who's ostensibly a pile of goop. You talk about your comedy wildcard characters, this one is premium, dude! I'm not a huge Pokemon fan or nothing, but I'd main him. I love characters with slug-like attributes, who doesn't? Most people? Their loss. Now, finally, a Pokémon to represent the Switch or home console era, Kiradon/Miradon. Legendary Pokémon whose designs are that way precisely because they suit traversing an open world. Very fitting for the home console representation, don't you think? Plus, the two of them being so similar, they can share a roster spot and, in a weird way, represent the Pokémon series' long history of launching with two versions every generation. Makes sense. The Fire Emblem series will technically have 3 characters, 1 revamped veteran and 2 newcomers. This concept is kind of responsible for me wanting to make this whole video. It came into my mind, I thought to myself, wait, this could actually work. This could really cross the aisle. It was like I solved a puzzle. But just to make sure this idea isn't just flatly polarizing to Fire Emblem fans on its face, I checked in with my pal Josh Goldie, the biggest Fire Emblem fan I'm in contact with, and a dedicated Smash Bros. Expert, to see if this concept held water. And, well, here we go. Marth will return as the default face of a character dedicated to the Fire Emblem series Lords. His 7 palette swaps will each be other distinct lords. Josh tells me Roy, Leaf, Erica, Seliph, Alm, Lucina, and Alyer could work on this front. Newcomer Dimitri from Fire Emblem Three Houses will introduce a playstyle around his lance. He too will have 7 distinct characters for his palette swaps. My knowledge of Fire Emblem characters is limited, and the wikis are frickin' impenetrable, but I have faith there are other Lance users with his general height and build who could pull off his moves. Lastly, Hector from Fire Emblem Binding Blade would introduce a playstyle around his axe. Josh tells me axe is a bit of a runt of the litter in terms of FE units, but the series' basic rock, paper, scissors system is sword, lance, and axe, so I figure that's the best route to go in terms of representing unique playstyles on a Smash Bros. Roster. And while Josh also forewarned me that going the Dragon Quest hero route of having 4 alternate character swaps rather than 8 would be more realizable, I'm doubling down on there being 7 other characters besides Hector who could fill each palette swap slot. Google Images showed me several generational variants of generic unnamed axe units. Surely, even if there aren't enough named axe-wielding characters who'd be feasible, these guys and gals could pick up the slack, right? And if you know who they are, Lance too for that matter, name them in the comments. Little challenge for you. I just think this system does a lot to both redress many people's criticisms with Fire Emblem's overindulgent and largely samey number of fighters, and bear the concerns of the Fire Emblem faithful's insistence that a multi-generational series whose appeal also happens to lie in cultivating a large number of characters should get a large number of characters on Smash's roster. So you know what? Here you go. A nice, clean 3 roster spots, each with unique playstyles, and each actually being a combined 24 unique characters. Whew, the voice acting budget for this game must be crazy. The Kid Icarus series will have 2 playable characters, 1 standard veteran and 1 Echo. Pit will again go soaring into Smash, and he will be accompanied by his evil reflection, Dark Pit. And Palutena fans, I'm sorry. The Pikmin series will have 3 playable characters, 1 standard veteran and 2 newcomers. Olimar shall return, and for the love of Mamuda, can he have his voice lines, please? Oh yeah, and Alf is here too, I guess. Sorry, Alf, I came this close to giving Olimar more character swaps and adding Charlie as an Echo with other character swaps of his build to make Alf's presence less weird and ancillary, but my desire for a different Pikmin newcomer and other Echoes for other series won out in the end. Sorry again, Alf. But you know what? Then again, this is just a video, so even mentioning this idea should have the same effect as including it in a way, right? I don't know, moving on. Ochi shall make his Smash debut with each of his palette swaps sporting a different captain on his back, with 1 swapping him for Moss with Leafling Olimar. And finally, the Pikmin series could really use a playable character that makes use of PNF 404's hostile wildlife, so I'm resurrecting my proposal for a playable Louie. Now, some people in my comment section for the potential newcomers video, for whom I hold nothing but grace and earnest pity for the record, seemed to misunderstand the overview I gave for my vision of this character. So let me illustrate my vision for just his Side B special to preface it this time around. Picture this. Louie is in his idle pose. The player presses B and right on the analog stick at the same time. This causes a volatile Dweevil to arise from the ground beneath Louie's feet and scurry quickly to the right with Louie on its back. When it makes contact with an opponent, it explodes, while Louie nonchalantly does a backflip off its back and lands on his feet. His expression does not change throughout this whole affair. Was he unaware that this just happened? Did he plan for this to happen? Was he aware of this happening, but he just doesn't care? This single proposal for one special move is a distillation of Louie's entire role in the Pikmin franchise. I want Louie in Smash, and I want his moves to revolve around Pikmin enemies, causing chaos around him that he either directs to his advantage or is just completely unaware of because he's preoccupied thinking about the stir-fry in his fridge. Punch-Out will have 2 playable characters, one standard veteran and one Echo. Little Mac will return to the ring, and Glass Joe will share his kit, though he won't hit as hard nor move as quickly, but he will have better air mobility. So he isn't a complete joke, though he is mostly a joke. Animal Crossing will have 3 playable characters, one standard veteran and 2 Echoes. Yeah, Villager and Isabelle are returning, and yeah, I'm considering Isabelle and Echo like I did Falco and Wolf. Sue me. And Tom Nook will serve as the wolf to their Fox and Falco. He also has a Lloyd rocket, and a pocket, and balloons, but his down special will just be taking leaves from his apron, tossing them, and they'll spawn random Animal Crossing accoutrements like furniture and fossils. And yeah, he probably moves slower and hits harder, I don't know. Xenoblade Chronicles will have 3 playable characters, 2 standard veterans, and 1 newcomer. Shulk and Pyra/Mithra will return, and Elma from Xenoblade Chronicles X shall join them, as she represents the aesthetically far different X offshoot of the Xenoblade Chronicles. Good for her. Splatoon will have 3 playable characters, 1 standard veteran, 1 Echo, and 1 newcomer. Inkling obviously returns. Octoling shall serve as an Echo, with maybe 1 or 2 different special moves in the vein of the Starfox and Animal Crossing characters. And this massive hit Nintendo franchise is well deserving of having a recurring villain on the roster with DJ Octavio. He and Porky can be mech buddies. He and Pauline can be DJ buddies. He and K. Rool can be Bulbous Eye buddies. He and Alolan Grimer can be boneless blob buddies. Not only does DJ O complement the Splatoon series representation, he complements many of the other characters on the roster without being too similar to them. The ARM series will have 3 fighters. Cry about it. 2 newcomers and 1 Echo. Listen, guys. I love Min Min. I do. But Springman just is the series mascot, okay? The promotional material would call him stuff like the everyman every man wants to be, and the all-rounder who can go all rounds. He's on the damn box art. And since he's here, he can have Springtron as an Echo. Give him variants of Springman's armaments that act the same but have different elemental effects, and translate his burst move, which would probably be a down B, to make opponents dizzy if they're in range, rather than deflect projectiles or absorb hits, as Springman's standard 1 would do. And yeah, I'm going there. The main villain, Dr. Coyle, is also joining. She's one of the rare instances where you could make a solid argument that she is in actuality the series' main character, despite, you know, being the villain. I'll make my ARMS lore video someday, but gosh darn it, would you people play the damn game? You're missing out! Now let's look at first-party fighters from Standalone series who, you know, stand alone. There are 10 standalone first-party fighters in the base roster. 3 standard veterans, 1 revamped veteran, and 6 newcomers. Ice Climbers shall return, because despite the little impact they've made in the grand scheme of Nintendo's history, I think they're unique enough to justify another appearance. Rob shall return, because he too is fun and unique, and the role he played in Subspace Emissary, even referenced in his series Icon by the way, makes him the closest thing Smash has to an original playable character. For now. Duck Hunt shall return, because it's still one of Nintendo's most important titles, and their moveset covers the breadth of the NES light gun games. Nifty, cool, sweet, keep them around. Mii Fighters will not return. But Mii, a bespoke character with their own moveset chock full of references to Wii Party, Wii Music, Nintendo Land, Miitopia, Tomodachi Life, etc., shall join the fray. Balloon Fighter shall pop onto the scene. with a moveset that pulls from the NES and arcade title, the criminally overlooked Game Boy sequel, the fascinatingly world-expanding Game & Watch, and we can even throw in a gust of wind from Nintendo Land as the recovery. If there's any one singular legacy Nintendo franchise that absolutely needs better consideration within Smash, it's Balloon Fight. You think of this game as just another nothing burger like Ice Climber or Urban Champion, but I'm telling ya, it was on track to be in the same conversation as Mario before Nintendo just gave up on it. Justice must be served! Ray, from Custom Robo, will enter the arena. Like I said in my frugal roster video, a new Ray model coinciding with a new game would be lovely, but as for stuff I didn't mention, making other Ray models from across the series palette swaps would also be nice. You may not realize this, as the first 3 games are Japan exclusive and the last 2 didn't come to Europe, but between 1999 and 2006, we got a total of 5 Custom Robo games. 5! Talk about eating good! I don't know what happened to their developer Noise, or whoever that caused this series to go on ice, but my gosh do I miss it. Maybe someday I'll make a moveset concept video for Ray and Smash, but rest assured, Custom Robo is a damn fighting game series, practically a sister series to Smash as Nintendo's first 4-player fighter. The potential is not only there, but screaming for justice! Justice must be served! Dr. Loeb from Big Brain Academy shall school the competition. Yeah, yoga is neat and all, but exercising your mind is just as, if not more important. And lends itself to plenty of out-of-the-box moveset potential. Imagine getting grabbed by Loeb and now you need to solve a 3-card Monty to break free. Oh my gosh. Henry Fleming from Codename Steam steams up the competition. This character may be the longest long shot I have here in the base roster, maybe even more so than Alolan Grimer. Codename Steam was a profound sales failure despite getting a pretty decent marketing push within the Nintendo sphere, but my gosh, despite its failure to accrue an audience, I love this game to bits. I think all of its playable characters could have amazing Smash movesets, but I'm choosing Henry Fleming because he's the game's primary agent and probably the least recognizable of the 19th century American literary characters in the lineup. But that doesn't mean other agents won't jump in as part of his moveset so as to cover their compatriot and keep his steam tank adequately loaded. This is another one I need to make a moveset video for someday, huh? Ring-Fit Adventurer works out a plan to battle. No, they would not be a direct copy of Wii Fit Trainer. Pilates ring exercises that conjure Green Lantern-esque apparitions to attack foes are way different from yoga poses with hitboxes. Sportsmate makes her play. Did you notice earlier, when I listed off all the games me would pull moves from, I didn't mention Wii Sports? Now you know why. There is great merit to having a character use sporting implements as a means to attack. I know most people don't like this character. I personally would have preferred, if Nintendo Switch Sports had to create a new line of specific mascots, that they'd go with the spherical robots from the concept art. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. Nintendo, work your character design genius on a robot world already! But as it is, the Sports series is a huge part of Nintendo's legacy. Switch Sports is the first time they've really sat down and attempted to give it a world with distinct characters beyond just using generic people in their manual art house style or cross-title console avatars. And you know, they can have palette swaps where they're a Power Ranger, a Sharkman, or a Purple Chipmunk, okay? They have compelling features past their unnervingly indistinct baby faces. Now for our last base roster first party pick, Baller from Drag X Drive dunks on the competition. I know you're going to think this sounds stupid, but I promise, it's not that stupid. I genuinely, no joke, have a whole moveset mapped out from specials, aerials, taunts, everything. Too much to splay out here, but I will mention that pressing shield and B at the same time like Inkling will cycle between center, guard, and forward, who would have different attributes like speed and weight and stuff, sort of like Pyro swapping to Mithra. And when you KO an opponent, you get a ring with the Smash Ball logo on it. And if you get KO'd, you lose it, just like the game. Little touches go a long way. I don't even enjoy Drag X Drive all that much, guys. But I think by merit of being such a unique product from a small 18-person team comprised of people from across Nintendo EPT divisions, helmed by a first-time director who'd worked with the company for decades as a programmer, this game has a very WarioWare and Pokemon Snap-like, Nintendo pride themselves on trying something bold and developer-centric energy to it that merits special attention in Smash. If you've made up your mind that that doesn't or shouldn't matter, you're wrong and I'm right. You'll never prove me wrong. Make your own damn videos. Man, I'm being really defensive. I'm sorry, guys. Anyways, let's move on to the third-party guests. The base roster has 13 third-party guests, 1 revamped veteran, 6 standard veterans, and 6 newcomers. Oh, and a quick mention before we begin, I'm operating under the rule that guest series are only permitted 1 fighter each. I know, Sonic fans, I know. We all want 32x SBO in this game, but we must show some restraint. Speaking of, Sonic the Hedgehog is our revamped guest veteran. Time to give this guy more moves beyond spinning into a dang ball. What? You expect me to name some examples? No, thank you. I'll leave that to the Sonic-obsessed commenters, thank you very much. They know and care a lot more than I do. Pac-Man shall return, and apparently people hate that his smash attack summons sprites of the ghosts. Okay, change it, I guess, whatever. Simon Belmont shall return because Castlevania is a huge franchise with a legacy on Nintendo platforms to the point where half of its name and half of Metroid's name have become shorthand for an entire genre that continues to captivate people to this day. There's no Silk Song without Simon. He's coming back. Hero from Dragon Quest shall return, and maybe this time Erdrick can be the default costume because DQ11 has not proven to be more iconic in the time since he was added to Ultimate. Go figure. Ryu from Streets shall return. Because he has to. I mean, even if it weren't the case that the series' first home console appearances were on Nintendo, I'd still say his status as the crossover fighting game character makes him an outright necessity for Smash Bros. Games that continue to feature guests. Terry Bogard shall return. SNK and Neo Geo are kind of in the same spot as Sega in terms of having a history more adjacent to Nintendo than directly tied to it, but even still. Neo Geo games came to Virtual Console, King of Fighters, Fatal Fury, and the like came to Super Nintendo and such, and while it's not exactly a deal cincher, Sakurai does have a history with KOF, to the point beating casuals at it in the arcades inspired him to make an accessible fighting game which became Smash Bros, and the rest is history. And the last of the guest veterans in the lineup, Bayonetta, by merit of her close ties to Nintendo since they, bought the publishing rights, shall return as well. Now it's time to name the last base roster newcomers, starting with Bomberman, who explodes onto the scene. One of the last in the line of iconic NES-originated third-party series that spiritually feel like a Nintendo series that, shocker shocker, isn't valued enough by its current rights holder, leading fans to want to see it inducted into the Smash family. Between the assist trophy and Mii costume in Ultimate, Bomberman has come so close to making it onto a Smash roster. My gosh, why not just go for it one time? He's a more fitting choice than Solid Snake. I don't care, bite me. Now, you may have noticed I didn't mention Cloud earlier, and it's not because Final Fantasy doesn't have a place with Smash. It's just that FF7 in particular feels like a weird pick, considering nearly everything that makes that game special is owed thanks to PlayStation hardware. Why not pick a more general, long-standing, Nintendo-spirited FF character? Heck, why not 2 at once? Moogle and Chocobo, built off of the summon of the same name, yet encompassing the many escapades these two species have undergone throughout the years, would be a ton of fun to include on a Smash roster. Don't you agree? Oh, what's that? You don't agree? You think an anime character with an impractical hairdo wearing too many belts and wielding a sword would be better? Agree to disagree, I guess. Go ahead. Point out the fact I called attention to it in the comments. Call me unoriginal. I've seen it before. It's also unoriginal. Arl Naja of Puyo Puyo fame shall join Dr. Mario's ranks as a falling block puzzle fighter, the first to get a moveset deliberated around it, I might add. Now the last 3 guests are ones who are particularly special to me, within the realm of my Nintendo-centric roster-building principles. I'd love to see Pax from Mushroom Men, or the Sporling from Spore Hero, or freaking Sam and Max in Smash 2, but even I have my limits. Jason and Sophia from Blaster Master are my, quote, indie rep of choice. There's a long rant waiting to spill from my guts about how the moniker indie rep is an anathema we should not be using, but we'll save that for another day. Blaster Master was an innovative hobbyist hit of a Sunsoft title for NES, starring a mutant fighting boy named Jason who drives his tank Sophia down a well to retrieve his pet frog. The game combined platforming, shoot-'em-up elements, and top-down dungeon crawling into one beautiful package. It got some ports and the occasional attempts at sequels through the years, most of which with reputations for not being very good, or at the very least, not as enthralling as the first title. Despite having a ravenous cult audience, the Blaster series never found its groove on current hardware until 2017, when indie studio Inti Crates partnered with Sunsoft to make Blaster Master Zero, a gorgeous remounting of the first game for Nintendo Switch and 3DS, and other platforms, lol. The game did really well, and Inti Crates even gave the game some DLC that let players take control of guest characters, like Shantae and Shovel Knight. But they didn't stop there. They eventually released Blaster Master Zero 2 and Blaster Master Zero 3. They finally did it. They revived the series and gave it the trilogy fans never thought they'd get to see. What a heartwarming roller coaster of a tale concerning a unique, innovative title in Nintendo history. So yeah, anime sword guys are cool when they wear space gear and are secluded in a cute little tank half the time, and also have guns and bombs, and can crawl around on the floor like a little worm. Uh-oh, we're moving on to my longtime most wanted meme incoming! Agumon, with maybe even the ability to digivolve to Wargreymon in Smash, would make me very happy. It'd be like getting to play a version of Digimon Arena Rumble that isn't, janky. And you know, Digimon was never really a Nintendo series per se, but it was never a Nintendo-averse series either. But from the perspective of players, getting an official Agumon vs. Pikachu fight would be as magical as Mario vs. Sonic. Agumon is one of the last necessary guest characters from my perspective. Most everyone else is either a nice bonus or an existential threat. Oh, but we're not done. There is one other guest character I think downright deserves a playable Smash appearance, and it's Rayman. It is a mystery why he's got so much content in Smash 4, Spirits and Ultimate, and yet just hasn't gotten the invite to join the roster. A mystery, I tell ya. Ubisoft and Nintendo's working relationship has remained steady even to the point of allowing one another to use and reference their IPs. Hell, Mario and Rayman's universes have officially crossed over this decade. Rayman 2 is going to eventually drop on NSO. Ubisoft are working on a new Rayman game apparently. But even without appealing to recency bias, Rayman in Smash will never not feel like a natural guest pick. Can we please just see it happen already? And that is not the complete base roster. That's right, folks. We've only listed 88. There's still an elusive number 89 to reveal, and it's a doozy. Some months ago, I uploaded a video called I Found Them, Nintendo's 50 Most Important Series, wherein I cross-referenced a bunch of sources regarding how often they reference their own series as representatives of the company. It's one of my favorite videos I've put out. If that sounds fascinating to you, save it to watch later. But anyway, Super Smash Bros. Didn't rank as high as many people think it should have on that list because, well, for one thing, Smash Bros. Doesn't have a forward-facing original mascot character Nintendo can throw out at any given place to show people, hey, we own Smash and we're proud of it. And it's obvious why. It's a freaking crossover game. When Mario, Pikachu, and Kirby are on the front, why bother including some whole cloth-spun series originee? But wait, Smash may not have an original mascot, but you know what they do have that they could be using to represent the series in broader context more often? The Smash Ball. It's iconic, but it's not a character. But it could be. Stop typing your comment. I'm not about to propose the Smash Ball become a playable character. Just kidding. Yes, I am Smash Ball for— No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not doing that. But I am proposing a character whose face is the Smash Ball. Remember the fighting wireframes from Melee? Walk with me. This game's adventure mode will give you an unnamed main character to play as. You can customize them to an extent in terms of color, attributes, maybe even some accessories, but the thing about them is, they have no unique moves or even body. When you start the game, you choose a default character from the wider roster of Nintendo icons to base this character off of. You know Charade from Soul Calibur? A little like that. only instead of being an eyeball surrounded by electric energy and bits of armor that's shaped and behaves like any other character, it's a wireframe that behaves and is in the shape of any other character, with the Smash Ball logo where its face should be. Essentially, we've relegated all of the customization options from Smash's past into one series-specific avatar who builds on the idea Smash Ultimate introduced with Spirits, whereby playable characters already on the roster can stand in, so to speak, for practically any character or item you can imagine. This fully customizable melee wireframe-like character is unlocked in other modes after you beat the single-player campaign, where it will be revealed that this character's name is Smash Brother. Just kidding, as funny as that would be, I think a more fitting name for this fighter is Echo. There's our 89 character post-ultimate refresh roster. My, but it's a doozy. And my gosh, we're still not done, are we? That's right. I mentioned we'd go over DLC, didn't I? Well, here comes some frickin' DLC! In keeping with what I believe should be Smash's priority of celebrating Nintendo's lineage, over the course of, 2 to 3 years, 15 DLC characters would be released, each coinciding with a specific Nintendo console, starting with the first freebie, Mr. Game & Watch. We can't not include Mr. Game & Watch. He's a distillation of the spirit of this DLC roadmap, and he dates all the way back to the series' second entry. Let's get the paid characters underway now, starting with the NES rep, Super Fighting Robot, Mega Man. How could I have been so careless as to leave him off the base roster? You fools, it was a trick, a calculated choice, because we know Smash fans would gladly pay money to get their precious blue bomber back and revamped to be more lively rather than a sort of creepy literalization of his expressionless Famicom sprite. Repping the Game Boy, it's Shantae the Half-Genie Hero. She originated on the Game Boy Color, don't you know? And she's gone on to be a prolific mascot for WayForward, who've since gone on to work very closely with the Nintendo, to the point they were even asked to helm an Advance Wars revival. Wowee. Repping the Super Nintendo, it's one of the last in the line of long-requested icons in the vein of Bomberman, Mega Man, and the like, Chrono from Chrono Trigger. Yeah, tough luck, Gino. Chrono's highly requested too, and he's got a whole series to his name. You've just got the one oddball offshoot. Still love you though, maybe next time. Repping the Virtual Boy, a freebie DLC character who probably gets shadow dropped on April Fool's Day or something, Harry from Tellero Boxer. You know what the worst part of this is? He's a genuinely cool character from a genuinely cool fighting game that people will see, play, cherish, and start campaigning to see a new Tellero Boxer game over. Repping the N64, Who else? You were suspicious, weren't you? You were thinking to yourself, he likes them so much he included them on an excessively frugal roster with only 2 third-party guests. Why would he exclude them on a roster with like 15 clones? Well, it's because I was saving them. These guys are practically the face of the N64. It just makes too much sense. Repping the Game Boy Advance, it's Rhythm Girl from Rhythm Heaven. Yippee! Repping the GameCube, it's time to unleash the boy. Chibi Robo gets his limelight. Rejoice, Cult of the Woznians. Rejoice! Repping the DS, Professor Layton gets on the case. This is another one of those characters people have been campaigning to see in Smash for a long while, though you don't hear about him much anymore for some reason. Anywho, this would make someone, no, a good gaggle of someone's, very happy. Repping the Wii, will the Wii Fit Trainer return? No. Travis Touchdown goes down on the fray, baby. I'm not much of a No More Heroes fan, but Suda51 is a well-liked auteur director. The No More Hero games were defining Wii titles, and so many people have campaigned to see this guy in Smash. Let him in, why not? Repping the 3DS. Oh man, there are so many, too many good candidates for this system from Nintendo alone, but in the spirit of being a representative of the whole system, I think it's been a while since we got an out-of-pocket concept fighter. Mr. AR appears, producing all sorts of tomfoolery from within his cubicle concretion with which to attack. You can even use your own photos to determine what face is on his Face Raider companion who helps him recover. Except when online, then it's just like Miyamoto or something, I don't know. Repping the Wii U, the wonderful 101 take form. Wonder Red is the default character, but the other wonderful ones aid in attacks, so the character is called Wonderful 101, okay? Repping the Nintendo Switch, it's a new character from an old franchise and the first true horror rep in the lineup. Emio, the Smiling Man, from Famicom Detective Club. What a pick, huh? Anyone who comes in here and says, "Ugh, you could have picked a Resident Evil character. I mean, they made a big deal out of porting all those old games to Switch and doing the cloud version of 7, you're missing the point." Emio is a unique type of character with a unique place in Nintendo's history, with an origin point on Nintendo Switch. Everything under the sun was ported to Switch, but only Emio came as the result of a revival of a long dormant IP actually getting a continuation past a set of remakes. And it did it despite having little presence in Smash or even outside Japan. Emio is the freaking man. He's who we need in the next Smash. Repping the Switch too, it's that same character used in the Frugal roster video who Nintendo doesn't want the world to know about yet, but for some reason has allowed 2 separate months apart, days-long online playtests go out, for which the public were free to register without even needing to sign an NDA or whatever. So while they may be quick to flag or strike most screenshots or footage of the game from this playtest, they haven't wiped it all nor the conversation around it to the point where it's very easy to just Google it, and I never got in trouble for doing it the first time, so I'm just gonna do it again. A character informally known to me as Developer. A soon-to-be Nintendo mascot I will eat my hat if he doesn't. With extremely natural moveset potential, I will eat my hat if you don't agree or end up agreeing with me when the game eventually comes out. And that concludes the DLC. Just kidding, no it doesn't, I fooled you again! That was only 14 characters. Who shall be the elusive number 15? Remember to record a Jigglypuff segment. You can call this roster a lot of things, but Frugal sure ain't one of them. I know some characters got cut. I know you probably have some favorite popular gaming icons you'd rather see over so many echoes, a Codename Steam character, the guys from Drag X Drive, some indie rep you've never heard of, a Lowland Grimer, and a Mr. Game & Watch equivalent for the 3DS's AR games. But that's just because you have no taste and I'm going to kill you. Nah, I'm just kidding, you little scamp. Quit taking everything so seriously. You've got homework to finish, mister. This script is long. It is 2 a.m. I will write an outro later. Parentheses, you know what? F it, just improvise on camera from here. It'll be funny. Thanks, me from the past. I appreciate that. Well, I guess I'll just say that I really enjoy coming up with different rosters for games, especially Smash Bros. Rosters. And my opinions are many, and I can accept several points of view, and while I understand that there are a lot of people who have very specific wants from this franchise, a lot of which come into conflict with one another, for as long as I find it fun to do so, I never want to stop considering all sorts of possibilities when it comes to this franchise, and many other franchises like it. So if you enjoyed this video, thank you. It was very long, so congrats on making it all the way to the end. Gosh, that really means a lot to me. Giving this video a like, hyping it up, subscribing to my channel, subscribing to my Patreon even, are all things that I would really appreciate and would really help me make more videos like this. And since we've got a comment section, why don't you let me know what other kinds of rosters, whether they be more Smash Bros. Rosters or just other kinds of rosters in general, you'd like to see me do for videos. Thanks again for watching. Now let's give a great big thanks to my YouTube members and Patreon patrons. Here they come.